Hello, I'm Madre Burkle from Sage and Summit, and welcome to The Heart of Leadership, our Season 2. Here we're going to have a look at practical leadership insights for people-first organizations. In these short videos, we look at leadership patterns that either build ownership or trust and performance, or quietly drag inside the business. So this week's topic is culture tax. Did you know that you are paying culture tax? So here's the story. She walked into her board meeting with 40 slides, revenue, market analysis, 3-year headcount plan. And what she didn't have is what nobody had ever asked her to build. What is the number that really matters here? What her leadership culture was costing the organization that she had asked to scale. And when she finally ran that number, it was 280,000. It was nothing to be sneezed at. You might know this feeling. You're tracking things that you're supposed to track. You're tracking revenue, headcount, turnover percentage, maybe engagement score that you run once a year or once every second year. And somewhere in the back of your mind, there's a tension that you can't quite name. Your best people are delivering, but they seem quiet in that one that used to be. Your senior leaders are busy, but somehow decisions keep landing back with you on your desk. Your team is very capable, but production and results are not moving as fast as they should. That tension has cost. And that is what I wanted to help you see what it actually is today. So there are 3 things that leadership culture costs us that nobody's measuring, but you can measure it. Definitely after today. First, the retention drain. Every voluntary departure in a skilled role costs between 40 and 80,000 in replacement, onboarding, and lost productivity. That's a conservative estimate for mid-level roles in energy, construction, and professional services. And your best people, the ones who are quietly auditing whether to stay or to go, are not telling you that they're thinking about it. They're the ones who never complain. They look satisfied. They always deliver. And who is handing in their notice 6 months after you could have done something about it? Voluntary departure times at least 40,000. The second one, the bottleneck tax. Every decision that flows through a senior leader who needs to make it is a tax on your organization speed. And in most high-stakes organizations that I work with, 40 to 60% of decisions landing on senior leaders' desks could have been owned somewhere else, on a level below them, with the right frameworks, with the right culture, and with the right guardrails to support them. Quite often, these decisions take 20% of your time, 30% of your time, and it's a $55 an hour type of decision that is being made by a $250 an hour salary. That is a tax. It's called bottleneck tax. And then the third is a capacity ceiling. When leadership layers cannot develop the people below them, every expansion just adds more work to the same people. And growth plans built on that foundation don't scale. They exhaust. They burn people out. So I want to tell you about the leader who helped me understand all of these costs in a single conversation. Coaching is so much fun. Let's call her Emily. Senior leader, high performance track record, managing a team of 22 across multiple functions in a high stakes environment. By every metric her organization used was winning. And she was 3 weeks away from losing 2 of her best people without warning. When she came to me today, she wanted to talk about how to motivate her team. It's a familiar thing. How do I motivate my team? They seem to be a little bit flat. They're good, but we need a little bit more energy, a little bit more oomph, a little bit more you know what. And how do I get a little bit more out of them? I asked her to walk me through a decision from a previous week, a real one, and how it had surfaced, who'd been involved, and how it landed with her. She described a situation where one of her team leads had brought her a conflict between 2 departments. It's about resource allocation. Sound familiar? She resolved it in 20 minutes. And then I asked, Could your team leader have resolved that? And the answer, probably yes. And then my question, why didn't they? And the pause was even longer. Because the culture we've built here means things come to me. I built it like that. In sentence, I think I built it like that is the beginning of every real change in leadership. Culture I've ever witnessed. Not blame, not self-criticism, just honest recognition. We ran 3 numbers I'm going to give you in a moment, and her replacement cost figure for the past 18 months was $240,000. Her decision ratio, the percentage of decisions that could have been owned at a different level but weren't, of 58%. And the gap between her organization's strategic priorities and where her leadership time actually went, 70% of her week was in reactive work. The insight that shifted things for her wasn't any of those numbers. Numbers are always cool. But it was this. My best person isn't leaving because of the job. She's leaving because the job has never fully let her own anything. The job was not realizing her full potential. And I built it like that. I built it like that because everything has to come through me. So I am not empowering my people. I am not giving them the space to develop and grow to their full potential, or even that to fully own their roles. And here's what I want to offer you as a reframe. Leadership culture is not built by what we say. It is built by what you repeatedly allow and tolerate and what you repeatedly model. The most expensive leadership culture pattern that I see in high-stakes organizations is not cruelty, bullying, or incompetence. It's competence that hasn't yet learned to develop other people. The bottleneck boss is not a bad leader. They're almost always a genuinely excellent individual contributor who was promoted, never given clear signal that their new job was no longer the doing. Their new job is to build capacity in others to do the doing. So they keep doing. And because it's faster, and because their skill set might be higher, and because frankly it feels good to be the person in demand, right up to that moment where people around them build sort of a mental numbness, the boss will decide, let's just pass it up. That's culture cost. It's not intention, it's just a pattern, and patterns can be changed. And that is the whole point here. The leaders I've watched shift from bottleneck to culture builder are the ones who make one specific move. They get more curious before they get helpful. Or they join the Dynamic Leadership Coach Approach program, which starts in September. Before answering a question, they ask one, or 2, or 3. They stay in that moment, not to be difficult, not to perform the Spanish Inquisition by any chance, not to teach a lesson. But because we need to peel the onion, our first thought might not be the best thought. To understand how come that problem is a problem for that person in that moment in time, and what have they already done to try to solve it. Because no use we propose anything that has already been tried. These people ask deep, curious, open-ended questions because they really, really want to know what their team member is already thinking. And they want that team member to know that their thinking truly matters. That single shift made consistently changes the culture of a team. So here's what I want you to try this week. One thing, not a framework, not a practice, just run the 3 numbers I mentioned. Your voluntary turnover rate for the past 12 months, multiplied by 40. So if 10 people resigned in the past 12 months, your voluntary turnover rate is 400,000. Conservatively, that 400,000 was used in time, in downtime, and recruitment time, and interview costs, and onboarding, and all that. Write that number down. That's the floor of what your leadership culture is costing you at the moment. 2, for 1 week, track every decision that lands on your desk or your senior leaders' desks. And by the end of the week, honestly assess how many of those decisions required that specific person only. That ratio is your bottleneck indicator. And then third, look at the last quarter. What were your 3 most important strategic priorities? Estimate honestly what percentage of your time actually went toward those priorities. And if it's under 40%, you have a leadership culture problem that is actively limiting your strategic capacity. Numbers don't need to be perfect. It's not an exact science. It is an indicator, and they will show you that something needs to change. So Emily didn't present her growth plan to the board that month. She presented a culture audit instead. And the board funded the coaching program she proposed. Because once they've seen the cost of the culture, the investment addressing it becomes a very obvious decision. If you're building a growth plan on a leadership foundation that you haven't audited, if those 3 numbers have surfaced something you want to look at more directly, then contact me for a 30-minute discovery conversation, just the 2 of us. No frameworks, just finding a possible solution. Am I the right person? Or whether I'm the right person to help you shift it. The link to book is below this webinar. And if this landed with you today and you know somebody else who has to hear it, please follow us and share it with others.